So GT, now that Austria's out of the way with, what's the next round in the 2016 Formula 1 calendar?
I don't know, Elsie. I think it's Silverstone.
Is it? Wow.
British Grand Prix.
Yeah. Oh, that F1 British week that the F1 debates were running.
Yeah, that.
Oh, yeah, wow.
That's the next big thing.
It is. And it starts today, guys.
Today? Thank God, I've been waiting ages for this.
Thank you very much for watching this episode, which is the first in our F1 British week, which runs all through next week through the British Grand Prix and ends on the Sunday of the British Grand Prix race day.
Yes.
We are so excited to do this. We've been mentioning this for weeks and months, basically since the challenge started. And it's here. We are going on a pilgrimage to Silverstone. But before we get there, we're going to start with this video where we are going to be discussing the history of Silverstone and the history of the British Grand Prix. Now, we are going to Silverstone, which it's been there since 1950, since televised Formula 1. But we're going to go back, we're going to dig a little deeper into the archives of Formula 1, JT. Even before it was called Formula 1. And we're going to talk about...
Get your hard hats on, boys, we are digging.
The first time it was ever in England, in the UK, in Britain, was at a track called Brooklands. And this was in 1926, so ages before Formula 1 was even started.
This was like many moons before Bernie Ecclestone was even thought of.
Many moons. So it started in 1926, and Brooklands Oval, as it was called, was built in 1907 as a purpose motor racing track. It was built near Surrey, which is near London, the capital of England. And it was fantastic to see it first in Britain. This was one of the biggest motorsport events to be held in England, in Britain, which was amazing to see. They were on airfields in the United Kingdom. It was set up by a man called Henry Segrave in 1926. And he was a driver who had won the 1923 French Grand Prix at the San Sebastian Grand Prix. And won the San Sebastian Grand Prix the following year in 1927.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and that really piqued everyone's interest in the motorsport industry in this country, which was great to see. The first ever race in 1926 at Brooklands was won by a French team, which was the two drivers of Louis Wenger and Robert Senal. My amazing French pronunciation, guys. And that was done in a Delage 155B car. Now, if you've ever seen any of the photos of this, it's a little Beetle car with four little wheels you'd see on a penny farthing, and a massive bus driver steering wheel that looks like it would break if you try to turn it to the left. It was unbelievable how these guys did it. It really was. It was signed for the second year in 1927, just because it was such a hit in that first ever year it had been seen. Several non-championship races had been held at the Donington Grand Prix. This was at Donington Park in the 1930s.
Yes.
It was where German Mercedes and the auto unions dominated the proceedings, dominated the next few races in the early 30s. That's where Mercedes got their massive legacy from. So Fangio wasn't a pioneer. It was before even those days, which was great to see.
Fantastic.
The auto union driver was Bernard Rosemeyer, and he won the race. And that was the end of the Brooklands and end of the Donington races. Now, they were brought to a halt at the end of the 1937 race. That was because of, obviously, proceedings in England, as you know, like World War II. And, so there was a massive gap, but Formula 1 was coming back, wasn't it, JC?
It was, exactly. Obviously, back then it wasn't called Formula 1, it was just basic Grand Prix racing. And obviously, during the war, there was no, there was no, races, there was no sport, there was nothing really going on, because everyone had obviously went to fight for war. So there was nothing really active from 39 till, obviously, 45. But then you jump 3 years later, and then you come into 1948, where Silverstone is born. Basically, it was an old RAF war camp in World War II. It's basically where you get all the planes so they can go fly out and go and fight the Germans and stuff, and obviously we won, let's not forget that. And obviously they would send the British Grand Prix back to Brooklands, but unfortunately it was damaged very, very severely in the Second World War, so obviously they weren't able to restore it, so everybody pretty much went to Silverstone, which was where Formula 1 was born on the 13th of May 1950, the first ever British Grand Prix was held, and this is where Formula 1 was born. This is proper down root thing. This is fantastic. This is where everything was started. This is where Pastor Maldonado emerged from. This is this is how we know him.
And he crashed.
And this is where the crashes, everything started. So blame, if you want to blame somebody, blame the 13th of May 1950. Obviously, don't. But that was one by a very talented driver, Alfa Romeo, who went on to win the first World Championship in that year. Was Giuseppe, I think that's how you pronounce it, Nino Farina. Obviously, as I said, went on to win the first ever championship in that race, and also in 1951. It was a very exciting race. It was the first ever race not won by an Alfa Romeo. So basically, it was like what Mercedes are now. So obviously, a very dominating car. And obviously, everyone was probably bored back then of Alfa Romeo winning. On comes Ferrari, absolutely fantastic team that came in. Very good legacy that would end up, big in Formula One. Jose Gonzalez won that race. In the first, and it was actually their first ever Formula One victory for the 1952 event. The original pits between Abbey and Woodcote were abandoned and demolished, and a new pit complex was built between Woodcote and Copse, I think it's called, Corners.
Yep.
Dominated that race by Alberto Ascari, again a very good F1 race, and then the following year Gonzalez won again in 1954, again in a Ferrari.
Yeah, which was great to see. Obviously, especially Ferrari as well. They'd made their name with Autosport. They were probably the biggest name at that time, if you like, especially all around the world. So in 1955, it was alternating between Silverstone and a new circuit in Britain, and that was Aintree. Now, Aintree is located in Merseyside near Liverpool. Modern day, this is where the horse race and the Grand National race is held, but at those times it was a motor racing circuit. So that held the amazing honour in 1955, and the race was dominated by the two Mercedes drivers of Sterling Moss, who was a British driver, and a name that you will hear, well, you've probably heard and you will hear a lot more in Formula One, even though he's not been in Formula One for 60 odd years, is Juan Manuel Fangio, which was amazing. It was an amazing battle. They actually battled that race, which you hadn't seen in a long time, and it was great to see that. So it turned from, even just that race, it turned from just a normal race to just an amazing kick into Formula One. Obviously, you're only 5 years in, but it's just absolutely amazing. It really shook it up. After the 1955 race, it alternated between Silverstone and Aintree. It was held at Silverstone back to state in 1962, which was won by Jim Clark. Obviously, one of JT's favourite drivers. I say one of JT's favourite drivers.
Exactly. Love that guy.
A Brit, and also as well, he's Scottish in nationality, but he was born in Alnwick, which is in the region of where we live. So it's very special.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
And yeah, so that was really good by that. Yes. Fangio won with Ferrari and returned in 1957 to see Moss. Sterling Moss was just obliterating on that track. He was the first British driver to set a benchmark, set what we love, and it kind of painted the picture of a British driver winning at a British circuit, and that is what we absolutely love. Peter Collins won in a Ferrari with Bernie Ecclestone, and that was in 1958. Obviously, that's where Bernie finally comes into the picture, JT.
Well, hey, he's here.
He finally is. And yeah, so that is where that CEO, Bernie Ecclestone, comes from. He used to be a Formula One driver, if people didn't know, and now he's a CEO, very old, and yeah, he is just one of the best tycoons in the world, if you like. Yeah. So, as I say, British driver Jim Clark won the British Grand Prix 5 times. And then also in 1964, Aintree was taken off the calendar completely to make way for Silverstone. And another, what else would take its place? What else would take Aintree's place? Obviously, that would never be there anymore. It also had plans to be turned into a horse racing venue, even at that time.
Yes, exactly. I mean, obviously that was where the Aintree was obviously dismissed from Formula One, and obviously it came in for what is now known as horse racing. Excuse me, but Aintree aside, a new track comes in that turns out to be a very good classic, is Brands Hatch. Yes. Now, when Brands Hatch was first announced in 1964, the track had originally been built in 1950 before being altered in 1960. The track is located in Kent, again just outside London, so obviously not far from Surrey. And obviously it developed to become one of the most classic races, or classic circuits rather, in Formula 1. Unfortunately, it's not used in Formula 1 anymore. It's more used in local go-kart racing or local touring car series. So obviously 1964 saw the first Grand Prix at Brands Hatch. And obviously, if you remember when the Spanish Grand Prix, not the Spanish Grand Prix, sorry, the German Grand Prix was held between the Nürburgring and Hockenheim, basically Silverstone and Brands Hatch worked like that. Silverstone had the odd number years, and Brands had the even number years.
Yep.
And Brands Hatch was more a different circuit compared to what Silverstone was like, because Brands Hatch had more camera corners and was more elevation changes rather. So again, it was more demanding on cars, and cars weren't really that used to it as well. Like the year before, my favourite driver, Jim Clark, won that race in 1964. This is obviously where he won a lot more of his races. I think he won about 3 of his 5 British Grand Prix at this circuit. So again, a very special track for him as well. We're jumping to 1969, where we see a young Scotsman in Jackie Stewart and another young driver who eventually would become a very good rising star, but unfortunately tragically lose his life at some point, was Jochen Rindt. A very good battle in that race. Jochen Rindt unfortunately loses rear wing. I think this is when he was complaining about how F1 cars should be run, how they're designed and stuff, and it was a very famous quote. He said it was like F1 is it shouldn't be more of a show rate. It should be more traditional, more down to earth, like what it used to be. So again, strong words coming out there, obviously from the British Grand Prix. Okay, so we jumped in 1975. We saw a chicane added to woodcut to slow the cars down through very high speed corners. This was at Silverstone. So again, it was more all about safety, which is what Jackie Stewart was implying. So again, Silverstone was pretty much one of the first circuits to be like to have changes to that circuit.
Yeah.
In order to coincide with what the drivers, how the FIA wanted, how the drivers wanted to make sure that nobody died. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the case, because we did see a lot of deaths. And obviously, in 1977, we've seen driver James Hunt win that race. Unfortunately, was controversially disallowed for obviously a number of reasons. But obviously, you know what James Hunt was like back then.
You know James. You know why James.
Everybody knows James. It was an absolutely a very controversial decision back then, because obviously when he won that race, obviously the crowd were like, "Hey, fantastic! James Hunt won finally." And then to be brought straight back down to earth by being disqualified, it was like, oh dear, absolutely, it was absolutely
terrible,
awful. If I'm totally honest, and obviously Silverstone returned. Just a few years later, Austrian Alan Jones lapped the circuit more than 6 seconds inside the lap record in his ground effect Williams. So again, they're showing the rise of Williams, a British Grand Prix team, who are absolutely fantastic. The history of them, obviously legacy in Formula 1, just showing how quick again they are at this circuit, showing how can I word this, how the legacy was started. Let's say I do struggle to get some words out, but obviously we jumped a couple of jump a couple of years through to that, because there is a lot to talk about in them years. I can't really go through a lot of it because we are limited on time. 1985 was to see Ketty Rosberg set the all-time Formula 1 qualifying lap record for 70 years by posting the fastest qualifying time with an average speed of 258.9 kilometers per hour. That is about 160.92 miles per hour. So again, another record set at Silverstone by Ketty Rosberg, who will eventually become a future Formula 1 world champion. And then who comes along just after that? The young gun, Ayrton Senna. Absolutely exciting one by the rising star by Ayrton Senna. Great start from fourth by leading into the first corner in that particular Grand Prix. Absolutely fantastic. Again, showing sort of Silverstone again, showing how young guns such as Ayrton Senna made himself known. And obviously away from Silverstone when they went to Donington Park in 1993, I think it was. Obviously showing how Ayrton Senna went from start to finish. From 6th to 1st rather. And again, that is pretty much Britain, showing all the classic circuits, showing all the classic races, and all of the classic classic drivers as well.
Yeah, that was great, fantastic to see. That's when Silverstone was really made, and moving forward from around 1987, I mean, it was to be established as an amazing circuit. Loads of changes had been made. The woodcut chicane was no longer in use as a left-right at the farm straight. That's also how the famous Maggott and Beckett's was born, as that was modified from more of a straight to a high-speed swerve and things like that. Again, the track was just being revamped. It was being moved. There was more corners. There was more straight, and it was just since around 1949, the track had always been evolving, which was amazing to see. It was becoming a bit like Brands Hatch, and also the layout of that circuit, which was great to see. So it was fast where it was fast, and it was slow where it was slow. It was absolutely great to see Silverstone there, and they did some amazing races, like the 1989 British Grand Prix, which was amazing to see. Alain Prost won that race. I'd say probably one of his best races again. Chasing Nigel Mansell again, overtaking him, and obviously keeping out the way of people like Ayrton Senna, the rising stars of those times.
Exactly.
It also featured one of my favourite races, which is the 1995 British Grand Prix, which was a battle between Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher. They both collided, which gave the win to another British driver. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Which was amazing to see. The 1992 race, again, a very special one, which was when Nigel Mansell was battling for the win, obviously battling for his World Championship of many, many years, retired out of the car, which was great. It just was great to see Silverstone there. In 1994, after the crash and the tragic death of Ayrton Senna, every single circuit around the world had a revamp, had to change because they didn't want any problems happening there.
Exactly.
As you know, Imola, they changed Tamburello from a very fast left-hand turn to a chicane. I'm not going to go into that, but as that was changed, so this was changed also. The flat-out corner at Abbey was very dangerous, and then even just 6 weeks before the event, it was taking place at Stowe Corner, was slowed considerably. And the track was made safer, so obviously a lot of these low-speed corners that you see, even to present day, were because of this, which obviously improves it and also makes it fun for us. But yeah, Abbey and many corners, for example, like Club, were very fast corners before it was changed. I'd say because of this, unfortunately, that tragic weekend, but obviously just revamping the track that they had to do. Damon Hill won the event that was changed in 1994, which replicated his father, replicated Graham Hill, the world champion, his dad, which obviously he never ever did, which was a real shame.
Unfortunately.
As I mentioned, 1995 was the British driver Johnny Herbert's win at the British Grand Prix, which was amazing, and the domination of Benetton. They loved this track. They had some amazing, fantastic races, which was really good. The track was always moving forward, was always improving. And how would that suit these new drivers like Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher coming through? Well, Michael Schumacher absolutely loved this event. But in 1999, he had a very heavy crash at Stowe where he broke his leg and missed many races. And that really wrote him out of that year, JT, because he could have been 8, obviously, in that year. Unfortunately, he did that. That's why Stowe was worked on. And again, it's a lot of these tracks are being moved back. And there was attempts to move the British Grand Prix for 2002 and onwards to Brands Hatch, but that never happened. That was set up by the British Race and Drivers Club that decided to keep the race at Silverstone since 2002. In 2005, they decided to make the track better, but instead of the circuit, actually improve the outsides of the track, for the fans and the publicity that were coming to it, making stands bigger and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's also where the CEO, Bernie Ecclestone, decided to build a new concourse on the other side of the track, which is where we see the International Pit Straight now. Mm-hmm. So for many years it was run on the other side of the track, which was amazing. For example, that's where we saw people like Lewis Hamilton take his win in Formula 1 in 2008 and some amazing races, which was great. Again, it was in 2009. It was to be moved to Donington Park, but that fell through when the contract was terminated in November of 2009. But then in December, so only about a month later, Silverstone was signed for a 17-year contract with Formula 1 from 2010. So it'll be on the calendar till 2027, which was amazing. In 2011, the new complex was built. That was between Club Corner and Abbey Corner, which, JT, that is a very special corner, isn't it, for us?
It will be, come Sunday.
It will be, yeah.
And Saturday.
So that'll be great. We'll be seeing the new concourse. Well, I mean, it's been rev for a very long time. 1 year since we went for the first time. If you don't know what we're talking about, that was in our Meet the Presenter, so please go and check that out. And it's where Formula 1 cars will now achieve one of the fastest speeds of around 145 miles an hour down that main straight, which is Grade 1 in the game, one of the fastest, along with Bahrain on the main straight, and also the Russian Grand Prix at Sochi. Obviously, they're very long, run down turn 1 downhill also, which is great. So Silverstone is just moving forward on the track. The things around it, the publicity is amazing, and that is why, JT, Silverstone is an amazing circuit and deserves to be one of the greats and in Formula 1 for a very long time.
It should be, you know what I mean? It's like established itself as like a key, not only for Formula 1, not like a key venue for Formula 1, like a key venue like all around the world. If you hear Silverstone, people know what it is, and that's like the impact it's had.
Yeah.
Obviously, every time, it doesn't matter what nationality you are. I believe that the British Grand Prix is a home race for everybody, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your team's based there, if you're born there, if you live there. And obviously Formula 1 was born there, so obviously all of us, as a group, were obviously commemorated here.
Yeah.
This is where everything pretty much started. That's how obviously we knew what we know today, because they all met up and obviously formed the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Obviously, it's just steeped in so much history, and obviously post-war as well. It was absolutely fantastic.
It's alongside Monaco, I'd say Silverstone and Monaco are just... I mean, that was where Formula 1 was born, but as JT said, Silverstone, Britain, was the birthplace of Formula 1. It might not be there now. You know, it might have other leagues everywhere else, but at the end of the day, that's where most of the teams are based. And, it's great. It's a bit like football, really. We're terrible at it, but doesn't matter. We still invented it.
That's it.
So but this isn't a football time. We're going to move on. So anyway guys, so thank you very much for watching this episode. This was our first episode of the F1 British Week, which will be really good. So tomorrow's episode is the best of the British Grand Prix, and we talk about some of the, not so much the greatest races, but just our favourite, the ones that we think stay with us the most. And in obviously the massive history, we have loads of races to choose from. We have almost 80 odd years to choose from. So thank you very much for watching this episode, guys. Stick around, please. I implore you to stick around for this week, which will be great, especially our days when we're at Silverstone. And I hope you're excited as we are. So thank you very much for watching this episode, guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
See you later, guys.